Have you ever had that feeling, deep in your gut, that something is just wrong? A chill that has nothing to do with the temperature? A sense of being watched when you're completely alone? Most of us brush it off. We tell ourselves it's just our imagination, our brains playing tricks on us. But what if it's not? What if it's something real, something from the other side, trying to make contact? This story isn't some made-up tale to tell around a campfire. This is a true account, something that happened to a friend of a friend, a guy named Liam. Liam was a skeptic, a down-to-earth, no-nonsense kind of person, the type who'd laugh at ghost stories and roll his eyes at paranormal shows. That all changed when he and his girlfriend, Chloe, decided to move into their first apartment together. It was an old building, one of those pre-war constructions, with high ceilings, creaky floorboards, and that distinct smell of old wood and history. They fell in love with its character, the large windows, the vintage charm. The rent was surprisingly affordable for the area, which they saw as a huge stroke of luck. Looking back, it was probably the first red flag. The first few weeks were perfect. They unpacked, painted walls, and filled the space with their laughter and dreams. It felt like home. The first odd thing was small, easily dismissed. Liam would come home from work to find a kitchen cabinet door wide open. He'd ask Chloe, and she'd say she hadn't touched it. They'd blame it on faulty hinges, on the building settling. It happened a few more times. Always the same cabinet, the one above the sink, where they kept the glasses. Annoying, but not scary. Then things started to escalate. They'd be watching a movie in the living room, and suddenly, they'd hear a soft tapping sound coming from the bedroom. It sounded like someone lightly drumming their fingers on the wooden headboard of their bed. The first time, Liam paused the movie, and they both listened. Silence. He went to check. The bedroom was empty. The window was closed, and there was no logical explanation. They'd look at each other, a little unsettled, but would eventually just turn the volume up and try to forget it. But the tapping became a regular occurrence. It was always there, just on the edge of their hearing. Sometimes it was slow and deliberate. Tap, tap, tap. Other times it was faster, more frantic. It was starting to get under their skin. Chloe was the first to admit she was scared. She started complaining about feeling cold spots in the apartment, especially near the bedroom closet. She'd be standing in the warm, sunny living room and then walk into a patch of air that felt like stepping into a walk-in freezer. Liam, ever the skeptic, tried to find rational explanations. Drafts, old plumbing, neighbors. He checked everything, but he couldn't explain the whispers. Late at night, when the city outside was quiet and they were lying in bed, they'd hear it. A faint, hushed whispering, like the sound of a conversation happening in the next room. But the words were indistinct, impossible to make out. It was maddening. It felt like someone was right there, just on the other side of a thin veil. Their words just out of reach. One night, Liam woke up abruptly around 3 a.m. The room was pitch black, but he had that terrifying, primal feeling of being watched. He lay perfectly still, his heart hammering against his ribs, listening. The whispering was there, but this time it was closer. It sounded like it was coming from the foot of their bed. He slowly turned his head. Chloe was fast asleep beside him, breathing softly. He strained his eyes, trying to see into the darkness, and that's when he saw it. A shape, a tall, slender shadow standing near the closet, darker than the surrounding darkness. It was completely still. Liam's blood ran cold. He couldn't move, couldn't breathe, couldn't scream. He was paralyzed with a fear so absolute it felt like a physical weight pressing down on him. He didn't know how long he stared at it, locked in this silent, terrifying standoff. The figure didn't move. It just stood there, watching. Finally, with a surge of adrenaline, Liam squeezed his eyes shut, hoping, praying that when he opened them, it would be gone. After what felt like an eternity, he dared to look again. The shadow was gone. He didn't sleep for the rest of the night. The next morning he looked exhausted, his face pale. He didn't want to tell Chloe what he'd seen, didn't want to scare her even more, but she knew something was wrong. That day, while Liam was at work, Chloe decided she'd had enough. She was going to try and communicate. I know. It sounds like a terrible idea from a horror movie, but she was desperate. She sat in the middle of the living room and said, out loud, if someone is here, please give us a sign. We don't mean you any harm. What do you want? For a moment, there was only silence. Chloe felt a bit foolish. Then, from the kitchen, came a deafening crash. She ran in to find that every single glass from the cabinet above the sink was on the floor, shattered into 1,000 tiny pieces. But they weren't just broken. It looked as if they had been thrown, hurled with incredible force against the opposite wall. The cabinet door was still closed. That was the final straw. When Liam got home and saw the mess, and the look of pure terror on Chloe's face, he knew they couldn't stay. His skepticism was gone, replaced by a chilling certainty that they were not welcome in that apartment. They packed a bag of essentials and went to stay with Chloe's parents that very night. They hired movers to get their stuff the next day. Liam went with them, but he refused to go into the apartment alone. As the movers were carrying out the last of their furniture, one of them turned to Liam and said, "Man, this place has a creepy vibe. My partner and I both heard a woman crying in the bedroom." Liam just nodded, his face grim. Before he left for the last time, Liam did something he never thought he would do. He stood in the doorway and spoke to the empty apartment. "We're leaving," he said. "We're sorry if we disturbed you. We hope you find peace." As he said the word peace, the bedroom door, which had been propped open, slammed shut with a bang that echoed through the entire building. He didn't wait for another sign. He turned, walked out, and never looked back. They later found out through some online digging that a woman had taken her own life in that apartment decades earlier. She had reportedly been very lonely and had died in the bedroom. They had been living in her space, and it seemed she didn't want to share. Liam's story always stuck with me. It's a sobering reminder that there are things in this world we don't understand, places that hold on to the pain and sorrow of the past. So the next time you hear a strange noise in your house, or feel a sudden, inexplicable chill, maybe don't be so quick to dismiss it. You never know who or what might be trying to get your attention. Thanks for listening to this story. If you have a true paranormal experience you'd like to share, drop it in the comments below. I'd love to read them. And if you enjoyed this, don't forget to like and subscribe for more unsettling tales from the real world. Stay safe out there.